All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And good evening, one and all, and welcome back to the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and for the next 2 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we will cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220. That's CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, and they stream us around the world on classic1220.ca. Man, what is going on in the world these days? Did you guys watch the entire inauguration yesterday?
I did.
Yeah. Joining me now is Brooks Agnew. And Brooks, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. It was, I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know how to explain it either. It's great to be on X Zone. You know, you made X great before X was cool.
Yeah, I've got no ties to Elon Musk.
He called you up and said, Rob, what do I call my new company?
And I said X. Yeah,
Yes.
That's right. You know, SpaceX. X.
Well, I'll tell you, the last 4 months have just felt like, you know, we're in the middle of a novel or a movie. I know everybody says that you're watching a movie, but
Yeah.
this is just really crazy. I mean, between the invasion and the drones and the fog and the acts of terror and I mean, it's crazy. We don't really know what's reality because by the time the news media gets it, it's all twisted. By the time the FBI gets there, it never existed at all.
Yeah. I was really surprised when he pardoned everybody from the J6. That just threw me, and I wonder how members of law enforcement are taking it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, when you have people protest, anything can go wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a misunderstanding and the front lines get blurred.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can go wrong. But it was nothing compared to Kenosha, Wisconsin or Portland, Oregon.
That's true.
That's just
true.
No comparison.
That's true. So how did you spend your Christmas holidays?
Well, I'm in the middle of a construction project. I'm building a house for my son, so I have used the holidays to really bore into it, and I got to spend good time with the grandkids, and everybody's healthy and prosperous, and seems to be going well. We're just waiting for the roaring 20s to resume.
Yeah, well, to you and yours the very best of the new year, Brooks. It's I told my wife, I said, I've got a funny feeling that this year is going to be strange, really strange. and then she said, of course, sweetheart, but you're going to have to give me 25% on that tariff in order if you'd like me to give you an answer.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
I got it.
Yeah, and it's a surprise every day.
Yeah.
We watched really down here south of the border in disbelief as our government, our republic, turned into just a pure bureaucracy. And if people don't realize what a bureaucracy is, I mean, every company's got them, but when a nation becomes that way, it's a rule by bureaus, and we don't have any representation in those bureaus. So it really is the epitome of tyranny, and we just had to sit back and watch.
How did he do that? How did he turn all those people into his favor to to get the popular vote and as well as the vote from the college.
Well, I mean, it was quite easy because everybody had been suffering for so long between the censorship and inflation. Things are
Hmm.
200, 300, sometimes 400% what they were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And everybody saw through this entire federal lockdown. We all knew what it was, but we couldn't do anything about it. We both have guns, but they had the badges and the little wooden mallets. So we decided to just, bide our time and just wait. Sooner or later, it would be made right, and it was.
Do you think that the next 4 years are going to be prosperous for you people down south?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent.
What we see here is this war between the deep state and the people has had several major battles, and there's a lot of dead on our side. I mean, a lot. Not just the people that were killed during the lockdown and the COVID and then the chemical jab that everybody was getting,
Right, right.
but also through the poverty.
Wow.
I mean, they transferred $4 trillion from us to them in 2 years.
Holy
And
God.
it is hard to come back from that.
$4 trillion.
$4 trillion, and they created 500 new billionaires. And none of my friends are those billionaires. All that money came from us. But the good news is that they're not really the value in the equation. We are.
Mm-hmm.
We're the farmers and the mechanics and the carpenters and engineers. We're the ones that actually create things. Government doesn't create anything. All they do is spend it all.
Right. Listen, you've got there's been a lot of sightings of drones lately.
Yeah,
And
and they're not ordinary. We have sightings all the time, lights and
yeah,
slow-moving things we can't explain. But these new ones, these plasma drones, are not something that we have seen before. And so many different camera angles, sometimes simultaneous cameras from different areas of the city on the same drone.
mm-hmm.
And these things behave differently. I don't know whether it's top secret government technology designed to cloak, a physical drone up there so you can't catch it on radar. You can only see it.
Right.
Or if it's, off-world technology or interdimensional technology. We just don't know. Nobody's telling us anything.
How come it's only in the United States that these sightings are being made of these drones?
Oh, it's not. It's everywhere. They've had them in London. They had them. Let's see. They were in Italy.
Wow.
I'm trying to think what other country. Ireland. Everybody was seeing these things, and the crazy thing is that New Jersey got the most attention. I think partly because Edwards Air Force Base is there, and
Mm-hmm.
probably Northrop Grumman and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin were all testing their plasma technology, flying it around at night. But the other issue is that they weren't telling us anything. They were just flying them around, and of course, not allowing anybody to do anything about it, and they weren't doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So the people were just very confused about it. Nobody was coming out from the government and officially saying anything other than we don't know what they are, but they're harmless. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Why would they do this at night? Or I'm sorry, why would they do it at night when they're easier to spot at night instead of just doing them all in the daytime?
My thinking, and I thought about that for a little bit. Why are they doing this, and why do they have the darn red and green marker lights
Right.
on them? We're legal. Don't worry about it. We're
Yeah.
legal. I think the reason is because the plasma
Mhm.
is they wanted to see it,
Oh,
and during the day the plasma wouldn't show up at all. So at night it stands out, and I don't know if it was just to put the people in a state of fear or wonder or confusion. I'm just not sure about that. But the question is, there was a beach cam. It's a camera that looks at the beach 24 hours a day in New
Mhm.
Jersey, and people were streaming it, just watching it, like you watch the ISS go over the Earth.
right.
And they could see the drones coming in from the Atlantic, right over the beach, right over New Jersey. And that's not normal. We don't,
Mhm.
I mean, drones don't take off from the water unless they have some kind of, dry area to land out there, like a carrier or maybe a cabin cruiser. But where do they go when they're done? And all the drone technology I know of, these things can go maybe 100 miles an hour if they're really blazing out hard. But they can only fly for maybe an hour or two on a charge. That's it. These things were up in the air for hours. And as far as I know, we don't have that kind of technology.
No, but not like that. But we have the drones that are used by the military that can stay up for days on end.
Well, not at 400 feet though.
Yeah.
Those like the Global Hawk cruises at about 65,000 feet, and it can stay up for 11 and a half hours
Right.
without refueling.
Right. Interesting. What's the hypothesis on these plasma drones?
Well, we know that the definition of a plasma is a gas that can conduct electricity.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that there is some plasma research being done in the field of energy. They're trying to create a plasma out of certain elements like deuterium and tritium and even helium-3.
Right.
And they're trying to crush these plasmas with magnetic fields to create what they call cold fusion. Now, as far as I know, and I'm a physicist, I did my senior paper when I was in college on fusion, so I understand the science very well. But as far as I know, cold fusion has never been duplicated. It's been done once, and even the people that did it once couldn't duplicate it again, and no one else could duplicate their results. But hot fusion, which is done at about between 1,500 and 5,000 degrees C, is done all the time. And we do it using various means of compression. We have used explosions to do it, which is what an atom bomb does. We've used magnetism, which is what a tokamak does. And we've used omega-21 lasers, which is what the Japanese do. And it has succeeded in hot fusion. Now, hot fusion's nice because it releases more energy than goes into it, but it's very difficult to control. It's not like just, feeding it more methane and the flame stays on. It's uncontrollable.
And yet, what do you think the purpose of these drones are, and what do you think they have? Do they have the ability to take pictures? Do they have the ability to use sensors? Any idea?
I would think, of course, but the rumor that floated out when Matt, and I can't remember his last name now, blew his Cybertruck up at Trump Hotel in Vegas, he had sent a couple of days before an email to a couple of podcasters here in the States, and he had said that what was being hidden was what was called gravitic propulsion.
All right, hold on to that thought, Brooks. We have to take a break. Brooks Agnew is my special guest, and Brooke and I will be back, and you're listening to us on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away. There's the theme song for Every Politician, Would I Lie to You by Annie Lennox. I guess this hour is Brooks Agnew. Brooks, what's your website?
It's very simple, brooksagnew.com.
There you go. Brooke, we were talking about these the drones and the person who blew himself up in front of the Trump Tower, the Trump casino in Las Vegas. He had sent something to a number of podcasters in the United States. And can you go on with that story? Because we have to take the break right there.
Yeah, sure. Well, so Matt sends this email, and of course, the most prominent podcaster was Sean Ryan, and Sean shared the email. He only redacted a couple of things because there were some active duty that were mentioned in the email. But the most remarkable thing was this mention of gravitic propulsion, the fact that, or that his observation that the Chinese and the Americans had this technology, and that it was related to what we call modified or gravity modification technology. It's the stuff of science fiction novels, and if you go to look it up on Google or any other search engine you want to, you're not going to find much. The assumption is that this technology is able to alter the way a body is attracted or repelled by Earth's gravity. And that this gravity can be manipulated in such a way as to create thrust. So not only can you just float in midair, but you can also use the gravity and the electrical charge that you put on these counter-rotating vessels with mercury in them. You can actually accelerate, turn left, turn right, and whatever's inside that modified gravitational field is not affected by what we call inertia, which inertia is resistance to movement, and momentum is the tendency of a body to stay in motion once it's in motion. Sort of like you're going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, and then you just whip the wheel to the left. You're going to get slammed into the right-hand seat because your inertia, your resistance to movement is to keep going straight down the freeway. The car is trying to turn to the left, but you're going straight still. Obviously, at 6, 7, 8,000 miles an hour, you're going to be flattened against the side of the craft if you try to make a turn like that. But the assumption is that everything inside that field is not affected by the inertia like that, and you don't even spill, the water out of the fishbowl.
Wow.
I've been to all kinds of seminars, all kinds of conferences. I've spoken to face-to-face the leaders in this rumor purveying, and I have never seen 1 ounce of proof that it could be done. So I don't know what to make of it.
Is it possible there's a connection with these drones and what we had covered a couple of years ago?
That's assumption. Matt's assumption in his email was these drones were demonstrating this gravitic propulsion technology, and that these things could run away from an F-35 like it was standing still.
Any possibility that there's a connection with these plasma drones and the Tic Tacs that the Navy were chasing around over the Pacific?
Yes, and this is where it gets interesting because, I've been a consultant for the space industry, since the 80s. I did my first co-op at JPL in the 70s. And I'm unaware of any of this technology, even in the back rooms, even the guys in the lunchroom, the ex-guys from the lunchroom. Nobody is talking about or has any examples of this technology. And the world's richest man is still lifting, 30-story spaceships into space, burning methane.
Right.
So it's not as though, somebody's sitting out there with a ship and all of a sudden they can just lift it by increasing the charge on the accelerator. If this technology exists, why not use it? We need a lunar colony. We need a lunar colony really badly right now. We just 2 weeks ago put 2 more private drones up on the moon. Now they're small, but they have tremendously advanced sensors on them, and we're getting some good information back from the moon. But we need to build a lunar colony in Schrodinger's Basin. We need to get this done like yesterday because there's enough helium-3 frozen on the moon to power Earth for 10,000 years. It's just sitting there.
Why doesn't Elon Musk, target the moon instead of Mars?
Well, they are. The Gateway project and the Artemis project is to develop cislunar space and then a lunar colony and then what we call cis-Mars space, which is much more difficult to do, exponentially more difficult to do, and then try to build a Mars colony. But to build a Mars colony, we will have to ship hundreds of thousands of pounds of equipment and supplies to Mars before we ever send a person. And we haven't even done anything bigger than a small drone.
Mm-hmm. So, what, like, how close are we to actually getting the helium-3 from the moon?
It's a good question. We have the technology which takes samples and then it launches the samples from the surface of the moon into orbit around the moon. And then there's another craft that orbits the moon that gathers up all those samples. And then when it has them all, it comes back to Earth. That's in the process of being built right now. The drones are very small now, and the samples are very small, like maybe 300 grams. And what we really need is something that will bring usable samples back. Because we have helium-3 on Earth, but it's very rare. It only exists around, active volcanoes. But on the moon, it's sitting there frozen in Shackelford Crater. It's been there for millions of years. It's not exposed to sunlight, but the sun has been creating this helium-3 for millions and millions of years, and it's been collecting in these oblique craters, which sit at about 25 degrees Kelvin, and that's why the helium-3 is sitting there. It's encapsulated in frozen water, because you can't really liquefy helium-3, but you can get it very cold where it's inactive almost, and we can collect it. Now, I maintain, because as I said, did my senior paper on fusion, that I don't think we can do helium-3 fusion here on Earth. I just don't think it's possible. Too much gravity, too much air. It's just impossible to suspend a plasma here on Earth. But in space or on the moon, it's quite doable. That's why I think the lab needs to be moved to the moon.
So what would we use the helium-3 for here on Earth?
Well, helium-3 is basically 2 protons and 1 neutron. So that's why it's called helium-3. So it's a light, a neutron. When you fuse helium-3 together, you get helium-4, and you kick off 2 energetic protons, not neutrons. Now, the neutrons are very radioactive, and they will kill you. But the protons are not radioactive, and they have a charge on them, and we could use them directly for electricity. We also get a tremendous amount of energy, which could be used to boil water, make steam, turn turbines, and make electricity. So virtually all the nuclear power plants that we have, which are making tons and tons and tons of nuclear waste every decade, would stop making nuclear waste and start making clean, cheap electricity for 10,000 years.
Last night, your president said, "Drill, baby, drill." Wouldn't it be more advantageous to the United States instead of drill, baby, drill and suck all the life out of the planet to spend more time and more attention to the helium-3 on the moon and get it going as fast as they can?
Well, the last part of your statement's absolutely true, because Earth is going to provide us hydrocarbons for a long, long time, maybe 200, 250 more years. We haven't really even tapped into the biggest reserves of oil that the Earth has. And Earth is abiotic anyway. The Earth just makes it. But if we start using it faster than the Earth can make it, obviously we're going to run out of that resource.
Yeah.
We need to keep doing it because we use it for everything. But we need to stop burning it because that's a big waste of oil. Helium-3 would replace that. We would still need oil to make plastics and coatings and drugs and thread and tires, paint, everything that we make with oil. But we would stop burning it for propulsion and for making electricity.
As well as, it would be more advantageous to the planet's survival than just to keep on filling
it depends on how well you burn. I mean, here in this country, we're very, very clean with it. We run all of our power plants off natural gas if we can, if we get a pipeline to them. And our coal in this country is what's called low sulfur coal, so it's almost non-impact to the planet. But China uses the dirtiest, nastiest, sulfur-laden coal on the planet, and they're building 100 coal-fired power plants a year. So they're not even slowing down. They're not even slowing down. We could do everything we can do here in this country, and it would be all negated with 6 months of production of China.
Wow. What do you think the Chinese are going to do since President Trump is back in power?
This is a good question because, we've been under attack from China for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that China has never, ever, in all of its existence, ever won a war outside its own border. It's lost every time it tries to go. It can defend itself now, for sure. But you have to have three things to win a war, a foreign war. You got to have advanced weaponry, which they have.
Right.
You have to have a loyal and motivated warfighter, which they do not have. And you need to have a way to get the warfighter and the supplies and the reinforcements to the battlefield, and they don't have that either. They don't have planes. They don't have troop transport ships. They don't have anything like that. They've never built it. So how do they attack? Well, they attack with their money, which we see in the development bank. It's being used all over the world. And the other is these asymmetric weapon systems. And there are 5 of them being deployed right in the United States right now, and they have been for a long time. And 100,000 Americans are dying a year inside our own borders. And we have not retaliated at all. And believe me, I've been to Washington. I've been on national radio for years talking about this, and there are no plans of retaliating against them for this.
Not even with President Trump at the helm?
The closest thing that he has done is designate the cartels as a terrorist organization. Yeah. That's just the deployment end of it. They're just the ones that are taking the chemical precursors and turning them into fentanyl tablets and then smuggling it over the border. China is the source of the chemicals.
Yeah.
Mexico can't make those chemicals. Mm-hmm. Those chemicals are coming in by the tanker load from China and being tabulated or made into tablets in Mexico with molds that were actually designed and built by China and sold at cost to Mexico.
All right, stand by, Brooks. We've got to take a break. Explanation, Brooks Agnew is our special guest this hour. BrooksAgnew.com is the website. And Brooks and I will be back. And you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. And, of course, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, streaming at classic1220.ca. Brooks Agnew is my special guest this hour, X Zone Nation. BrooksAgnew.com. And Brooks, we were talking about the manufacturing of fentanyl in Mexico, and like you were saying, they get the chemicals that are used to make the fentanyl from China. Now, isn't there some way that because of the new president and because of the executive orders that he could actually use these orders to intercept the fentanyl before the chemicals before it even gets to the United States?
Yes, and this is just the basic, what needs to be done. This interdiction, that's going to take some special forces to be able to do this, and it means we have to go to Mexico with these special forces, and we need to grab and destroy these chemicals. Then we need to destroy the plants, but then, because this is a multi-billion-dollar a month business, we need to follow the money. And that's what the Washington has been afraid to do, because I can guarantee you that a lot of that money is ending right back up in the bureaus and agencies, departments, and administrations in D.C., or it would not be allowed to stand. 100,000 Americans a year are dying. It's hardly a town in our country that does not have a body in it right now with a toe tag that says fentanyl is the cause of death.
Right.
This just cannot stand.
We
And
also,
there are other weapon systems too besides that.
well, we do have the same problem up here in Canada with fentanyl, and we sure like to see it getting off the street. And I know that our law enforcement agencies are working very hard to interdict it from coming into Canada, as well as doing whatever we can to stop it from going into the States. What other ways do you think that China is actually?
Well, the three main ways, of course, they deliver counterfeit cash and have been for a long time into our country and your country as well, destabilizing our cash industry. They are also attacking infrastructure, cyber attacking things like air traffic control and rail, distribution of water and fuel, communications, distribution of electricity. They've been cyber hacking that for a long time, and they're getting very, very good at it. And they've been very disruptive with it. And what we see, and there are other weapon systems too, stealing intellectual property. We've had tremendous losses from that. China doesn't really invent anything; they just steal it and duplicate it. But it's apparent that they don't want to do what our government is trying to sell us as their modus, which is to attack us, blow up an EMP or blow up a bomb and destroy a bunch of cities. That's not their plan at all. They don't want to destroy America at all. What they want to do is get rid of the Americans. They want the airports and highways and the national parks. They want the dams and the universities and hospitals. They want all that stuff. They just don't want us in it.
So get rid of us and take over and walk in, and they've got a country all to themselves, a brand new China too.
Yeah, that's right. And they're doing it all over the world. They're doing it in Africa. They're doing it in Latin America. And NATO's doing the rest. NATO doesn't exist anymore. It's now, we call it the Pan-European Army. And if you look at their track record of attacking and taking over 63 sovereign countries, since 1947, they're very aggressive, and it's going to be very hard to stop them.
Brooke, what is your take on the Panama Canal situation?
This is an interesting situation. Since the 70s or so, moving freight, oil tankers, shipping container ships, and stuff like that has always have to go all the way down around Tierra del Fuego and back up the other way. It's long, it's dangerous, it takes a lot of fuel, it's congested. So when the Panama Canal was created, it cut all that off. It cuts about 11 days off of the trip. But there's another passage that is even faster than the Panama Canal, and you don't need any locks. And that is the Northwest Passage.
Yeah.
So the Northwest Passage is really only passable about 7 months out of the year. The rest of the time it's clogged with ice and has big icebergs. But that passage is controlled by Canada and by Greenland. And so this recent move, not just with Panama, to get it out of Chinese hands or Chinese control, it's in Panamanian hands, but it's being controlled by massive amounts of Chinese money, also opened up the Northwest Passage by feeding support to Greenland. You now cut another 7 days off the trip from the west coast of America to, say, Europe. You can go through the Northwest Passage and cut 7 more days off your trip. It's a huge advantage, and it needs to be developed.
I understand with the with climate deteriorating, that the passage is open now up more than 7 months, and there's been a lot of interest from China as well as Russia.
Yeah, it's hard to say. The passage opened up for the first time in 2008. It had a big calving where this big ice shelf broke off and floated away. And since that time, it does refreeze. It's virtually impassable unless you have at least an icebreaker ahead of you. Even ice-rated hulls, which Norway operates a lot of, they don't go above the 94th parallel, or I'm sorry, 86th parallel. They stay down below the 86th, 80th, 82nd, somewhere in there. But above that, you have to have an icebreaker, because if you get caught in the ice, you'll just get crushed. And these polar vortexes that you have experienced, we're experiencing one right now. It goes all the way to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was 3 years ago, we had 3 of them. We had one in Siberia, one in Europe, and one in the U.S. all at the same time. All 3 areas were below freezing. We have had the strangest weather the last solar cycle. This solar cycle has a lot more sunspots, so we're watching our atmosphere being rebuilt by the coronal mass ejections. I think it's going to take 10 or 20 years to build it back up again. But with the thinning atmosphere, we have wild swings in temperature on the surface. Very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter, because we don't have any thermal barrier, because the atmosphere is miles and miles and miles thinner than it was. It all got blown away by the solar wind, and we didn't get any extra particles from the sun to rebuild it.
Is there any possibility that HAARP could be putting any weather changes in? Because I know that years ago HAARP was a big topic.
It still is. HAARP used to just exist, at least for us, on the north slope of Alaska, but there are a lot more of them right now. They have so many purposes. They can lace long wave radiation on them and do what's called Earth tomography with them. They can actually look upwards of 20,000 feet into the ground by using these waves. But they're directed by heating the ionosphere and pushing it out into space, and then creating kind of a parabolic mirror. They bounce the waves off the parabolic mirror, and they manipulate the ionosphere to do it. But in manipulating the ionosphere, you also move the stratosphere around, which moves the atmospheric river, and that controls the weather. Mm-hmm. Now, the ground-based ones that we have, like the one based on the USS Nitsy and some other ground-based mobile systems, we can actually use them on the ground to do stuff like steer hurricanes. We can use the long-wave resonance to trigger earthquakes. And these are weapon systems that really don't carry much of a fingerprint, but we can see them being used. We just can't do anything about it.
And so is this all climate control then we're talking about?
I don't think it's climate control. I think it's weather manipulation. Right. Climate is basically a pattern. I guess if you poured enough energy into it, you could alter the climate, but weather control is bad enough. Climate is going to undulate over time. It has for all the time. We've checked 20, 25,000 years. And it will go back down. It'll cool again. In fact, we're already beginning to see the precursors of a mini ice age. Hopefully it never kicks in, but it is swinging in that direction.
In your opinion, what is the cause of the massive fires that we're seeing in California?
I was born and raised in California. I was born in Encino, so I guess I'm the Encino man. I grew up in Northridge and Pasadena and Santa Monica. I went to high school in Santa Monica and San Marino. Mm-hmm. And we have 4 seasons, not like Canada. Canada, you have winter, spring, summer, but in Southern California, we have rain, we have earthquake, and we have fire. Those are our seasons. And this time of year, when the Santa Ana winds turn and blow out to sea, it dries everything out. And those winds are anywhere from 40 to 90 miles an hour, and they have like 10% humidity. So it dries everything out. You can't pitch a cigarette butt out the window without something catching on fire in California. The difference is that up until 4 years ago, well, maybe the Paradise fires, I guess, we've had pretty good fire protection. So when these fires break out, the trucks go out, they put it out into fire. But the last 4 years, the fire prevention system in Southern California has been neglected. Reservoirs were empty. There was no training going on. Fire hydrants were not being checked. A lot of the improvement money got sent to Ukraine instead of being used in Southern California. So I'm not saying it was a perfect storm. I'm saying we left the territory of mismanagement and we crossed into the realm of malfeasance about 2 years ago. And Southern California is paying for it right now.
They certainly are. Quickly, I've got about a minute before we have to go to the final break. What do you think is going to happen with Ukraine now that President Trump is in power?
Well, peace has to happen. Of course, NATO is going to have their funds cut off, which is going to stop most of the aggression. We're not going to send these long-range lethal weapons into Ukraine anymore. And the negotiation is going to happen and peace is going to be had. What cost? At what cost? I think the 5 states that have declared their independence are going to stay independent.
So, in plain English, it was a waste of time, waste of money, and a waste of lives.
And they had it in the palm of their hands. They had it in the palm of their hands 4 years ago, and the British and the U.S. State Department forced it to go to the battlefield.
Unreal. Brooks, stand by. We do have to take our final break. And as always, it's great having you on the show, Brooks. I thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. And you and I will be back on the other side of this quick break as the X Zone continues. This is Hour 1 of tonight's show. Hour 2 will be starting about 6 or 7 minutes after we go to our final break and the networks do whatever they do. This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. If you'd like to send me an email, it's xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. I'm Rob McConnell, and you're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, as I said before, and right here from our St. Catharines affiliate, just down the street from us. Your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJAM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be back.
He'll never come back now, even though he said he would. So darling, dry your eyes. So many other guys would give the world, I'm sure.
Brooks Agnew was my special guest of this hour. As always, Brooks, thanks very much for joining us. Do you think that President Trump will actually take military action in order to control the Panama Canal again?
I don't think military action will be necessary. I think it can be done with economic action. He just leaves those things on the table to be provocative. Panama will see the light and realize that it's been mismanaged. Not so much the prices, but just flexing their muscle and saying, if you don't behave, we're going to slow down your shipping. Well, we're going to have alternatives, and that's what that struggle is all about.
I can understand President Trump with the 25% tariff because we could actually afford it up here. But when you look down at Mexico, what do you get 25% of?
Exactly. Well, a lot of companies went down to Mexico and built manufacturing plants. Mm-hmm. They only have to make, I think, 47% of the vehicle in the United States to still qualify to be able to ship the stuff straight over the Mexican border back into the U.S. and sell it. But the labor differential between Mexican plants and American plants is enormous. It's about 75%. Our average wage in the factory is about $48 an hour, and theirs is about $16 an hour. So it's a big difference. And they're very, very skilled down there, very skilled with metal and with plastic and with electronics. We have most of our wiring harnesses and circuit boards are all made in Mexico. So it could really devastate Mexico. And the whole argument is over the invasion. If they would, unfortunately, they've been the conduit for approximately 18 million illegals to cross our border and have just devastated most of our mid to small towns in this country. We really, really have had economic hardship because of it.
So how is he going to turn it around? Like we've heard about these these mass programs that are going to use ICE agents. They're going to do roundups. They were supposed to do a major one in Chicago, I believe, this morning, but
Yeah, it isn't.
it
When
leaked out.
we use the word mass, it sounds terrible, but it's really five groups. We have people in prison or who have been in prison in this country who are illegal. They're going to go first.
Right.
Then there's about 1.3 million people who have already had their hearings. The hearings are over, and they have determined not to qualify for asylum, and they've overstayed, and they need to leave. So that's almost 1.7 million right there. And then we have illegals who are just sitting in hotel rooms everywhere, and they're from over 140 different countries. They're not earning any money. They're getting food. They're getting housing.
Wow.
And they're doing nothing, and they need to leave. That's about 8 million people. And we get those people out, and I think that could be done before Christmas. Then it's going to take a huge burden off of us. Now, the rest of them, even though they're illegal, they're framing, they're painting, they're cutting grass, they're roofing houses, they're working, laying bricks. They're very skilled and honest and hardworking people. And I think what they need to do is get themselves over the border, submit their paperwork and say, look, I worked in the country for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this much money saved up. I own a home. I have cars. I have 3 kids. And they will be expedited back into the country.
How about the gender situation where it's just male, female?
Obviously. The rest of it is a national, I think, communist plan to divide up our country, because the United States, Americans are unstoppable when they're united. And to put it in the words of Abraham Lincoln, a house divided cannot stand. And they divided us up as small and as tiny and as aggravated at one another as they possibly can. And they have a goal in mind, and that is to destroy America and turn us into either a communist country or a fascist country. And they have a leg up on it, as we say in the rodeo business.
It's going to be a year to see what the heck happens. It's going to be worth watching the morning news with a bowl of Fruit Loops and orange juice, I'll tell you.
Well, we've had the shock and awe the last 24 hours, haven't we?
We have, and I think that there's more to come. I really do. I know that our government is planning a retaliatory strikes if the tariffs do happen. And I, for one, would like to see them sit down and talk about it and work it out and say, all right, you know what, there's a will, there's a way, and let's work it out. You know, I don't.
Well, usually what will happen is a company will say, well, we're not paying those tariffs.
Yeah.
We're going to move the plant back into, Tennessee or back into Oklahoma or something like that, and that'll be fine. That's exactly what President Trump wants. He wants Americans working. And not people in foreign countries working, and specifically all the jobs. And I have to admit, I mean, I was part of it. I was one of the engineers that took plants apart, put that equipment on ships and trains and shipped it to China. I got paid to do it.
Wow.
But now I see the folly of my ways, because here in North Carolina, we have about 5 million square feet, probably within a 15-mile drive of me, that's empty. All this factory space empty, because all those plants are gone to China.
Do you think they'll come back?
I absolutely do. Sure, they'll come back.
What do you think the Chinese will do? Losing the factories, losing the workers, losing the money.
Well, they have the rest of the world. There are a lot of countries that have their stuff made in China. You go to Egypt and try to buy something made in Egypt, you better look hard. I've been there many times. Most of the stuff is made in China, and they don't like it. They don't like it at all.
No way. Unreal. Now, you mentioned something about a fog to me in a correspondence we had, and I'm just not sure what you mean by fog.
Well, people were complaining about these strange fogs coming in, and of course you got all these TikTok videos about it. Fog happens when the dew point is reached in the air, and it's about this time of year that it happens. Cold air comes down from the north, it hits the moist air from the south, and boom, you have fog. The first few fogs of the year are nasty. They're loaded with soot and bacteria and microplastics and all kinds of stuff that comes out of the air that gets caught up in the surface tension of that water and dropped into people's pools and dog bowls and on their lawns. And people were thinking that the government was just, releasing a very strange and deadly fog on us. But this happens every single year.
So the chemtrails were replaced by fog.
Yeah, pretty much. But the chemtrails are real. I mean, we don't have them here in North Carolina, but there are some states that have active aerosolization programs in the air that are put there by military and even commercial aircraft.
For what reason?
The theory is that if they put these high altitude aerosols into the air, that it forms a kind of white mist and blocks the sunshine and keeps that IR radiation from striking the soil and warming it up. The folly is that it also increases the amount of UV that gets to the ground. And so you're seeing a lot more people with skin cancer and sunburns. Even dolphins are showing up with severe sunburns on their skin, because the UV is so much more intensified by these metals that they've sprayed into the air.
So where did the story about the chemtrails being an aerosol of vaccines that were being distributed amongst the people, like, was there any truth to that at any time?
You mean where the two are linked together? I don't see the link. The vaccines were a designed chemical weapon that developed microclotting in the humans, and we've just finished an autopsy survey in Oregon. It was a significant one, a little over 1,200 cadavers, and they wanted to determine the cause of death because ostensibly these people died of natural causes. 73%, Rob, 73% of the bodies were determined that microclotting and arterial clotting was the cause of death. And it was directly caused by the jab. And it's like, are you kidding me? And then they cross-referenced the bodies and found that only 27% of them had not been vaccinated. And they were the ones that died of natural causes. We have an avalanche of insurance claims here we haven't even seen the worst of it yet.
Unreal. Well, you and I are going to be talking a lot this year, I think.
Yes, we will.
And as I said, it's always a great pleasure talking to you, Brooks. And what are you doing besides building a house for your son and doing all the great work that you do?
I am finishing my 13th book, which is called Glance of Angels. It's going to come out this month. It is a sequel to Charm of Favor, which was a multiple #1 bestseller on Amazon. And this is a real true crime story of the war between the deep state and the leadership in our government. And it hasn't been going well, I'm going to tell you that. So Glance of Angels is a true crime thriller. It has fictional characters in it, of course, but all the events in it are real.
Brooke Agnew, thanks very much for joining us tonight, Brooks, and take care, and my very best to your family. And like I said, have a great year, and I look forward to the next time when you and I have a chat.
Me too, Rob. Thank you.
Take care. Be safe, my friend.
You too.
Exonation, Brooks Agnew has been our guest this hour, and Brooks is going to be going to another interview, I believe. He's a great guy. And I must tell you, Exonation, that this year is going to be a year that we will never forget. By the way, the Canadian government is ready to protect our northern border, and a survey was done, and I think there was, what was the Craig? 3% of the people polled said that they would go along with annexing of the U.S. And, of course, we must have took them out of their tents and asked them if they wanted to go to the United States or stay here. We don't want to go. We don't want to be part of the United States. We love our neighbors down south. We really do. I have so many good friends in the United States. Brooks Agnew, for one of them, Larry Lawson. My gosh, the list goes on. And then all our affiliates that we have in the States. Hey, guys, I love you all. I truly do. It's great being on your airwaves. It's great meeting you whenever Laura and I go down to the States. But you know what? We like coming home. And it's Oh Canada, our home and native land. And the Americans are very proud people. I was watching the inauguration the other morning with Laura, and the pomp and circumstance, my God. Wow, I wish we had that when we have our new prime minister come into power, but we don't. It's, hey boys, let's go down to Tim Hortons and get a coffee, and a couple of donuts. But I'm proud to have the friends that I have in the United States. I am so happy to be on the air in the United States, but I'm a Canadian, and I would never vote to be annexed with the United States. And I hope you don't take that the wrong way. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone. You're listening to us on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and of course, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, and they stream us around the world at www.classic1220.ca. I'll be back as Hour 2 starts right after these breaks.